the Women for Change movement is calling on women and members of the LGBTQI plus community across South Africa to shut down all paid and unpaid work on Friday in a national protest against gender-based violence. The action, dubbed the G20 Women's Shutdown, is planned for the day before the G20 Summit starts to highlight the country's escalating crisis of rape and femicide. The organization says South Africa cannot speak for growth while a woman is buried every 2.5 hours. Participants are urged not to spend any money for the entire day to demonstrate the negative economic impact. Women are also encouraged to wear black and join a 15-minute nationwide lie-down at noon to honor the 15 women murdered every day. The movement has gained strong online traction, turning social media timelines purple under the hashtag Women for Change campaign. For more on this, we're joined by Women for Change spokesperson Cameron Kasambala. Cameron, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Economic boycotts can be quite impactful and powerful. We've seen it result in behavioral change, policy change, as well as sparking political action and collective action. A single-day economic boycott, so to speak, withholding your money, showing your strength through withholding transactions can be incredibly powerful. What do you hope that signals to those who would be affected?
I think for us, what we're hoping is to make a very clear message to South Africa that our absence and allowing us to be killed has consequences both economically and socially. And with us hosting this G20 event and so many eyes being on South Africa, having our economy have these challenges is a wake-up call and should be garnering some kind of pressure both internationally and locally. So the intention is to really showcase what happens when they continue to allow us to be killed every single day.
Yeah. Let's talk about what change you would hope to see happen at hopefully a policy and polity level following this action and, of course, following the shutdown altogether. What are some of the decisions you would like key decision makers to enact in response to an ongoing epidemic of genocide, of femicide rather, in South Africa?
So our shutdown follows our demonstration that we had on the 11th of April, where we handed over our petition memorandum, and we asked the government to declare gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster. And within that memorandum, we asked them to fund the NSP fully, also providing audits and reports of exactly where the funding is going, releasing the National Sex Registry Offenders List, doing judicial and legislative reform to make things more relevant and more effective. We asked for them to improve comprehensive education. There was a lot of different things we asked for, but the thing that we didn't ask for is new policies and new legislation. We have fantastic frameworks with the National Strategic Plan to tackle gender-based violence and femicide, but we also have the Domestic Violence Act, the Protection from Harassment Act, we have the Sexual and Crimes Offences Act. So there's so many things in place. What we need is action and implementation, and declaring it a national disaster allows for that.
How severely is the National Strategic Plan underfunded by?
I think that we haven't been given clarity on exactly what needs funding. We haven't been told the costs of exactly where the NSP is. So we don't know how much the training costs. We don't know how much improving the legislation, improving service delivery. They haven't given us clear numbers on exactly how much it costs. And because we don't have any audits or reports, there's no transparency on if any investments have been made in the first place, if any of the money allocated is gone. But they have allegedly allocated 21 billion rand to the NSP. However, we have seen no evidence of it actually being implemented effectively, so we don't know.
Yeah. Is there any sort of report, particularly following a raft of new laws that President Cyril Ramaphosa signed into law in June and July last year, one of them which included the National Council on Gender-Based Violence now becoming a fully recognized statutory body rather than just an advisory body in the presidency. Is there any sort of reporting on the work that they've been able to do in tackling femicide in South Africa?
To be honest, we haven't seen any. We've heard the empowering, we've done partnerships, we've done training things. And I think the issue that we have is, again, it's very high level promises. There's no detailed clarity on exactly what has been done. We've heard whispers of the police force has been trained on better handling of gender-based violence and femicide cases, and yet we haven't seen exactly what the training looked like. And based on the work that we do, being so in close contact with survivors and victims and their families, on the ground, we are not seeing any progress or implementation happening. So it's very concerning saying that despite having this national office, we are not seeing actual change being made. And I mean, in the past year alone, we've seen a 33.8% increase in femicide rates alone. So that's telling us that there's something severely lacking, whether it's in the national office or the government as a whole, in terms of implementation and accountability.
We've heard from the Department of Justice that there are legal hurdles to the publishing of the sexual offenders list registry in South Africa, which pertain to other constitutional prescripts such as the protection of information and related matters, and that the service remains available for schools, for instance, to inquire from the registry whether or not any of the teachers they're hiring are on the registry, and they deem that to be a sufficient mechanism through which transparency can be exercised in the instance of weeding out sex offenders in schools, for instance. You're calling for it to be publicized and to be a continuously publicly available domain. What's your interaction with what they offer as a challenge to that?
I think that the reality is when someone has been convicted of a crime, it has happened. That should be publicly available information. The unfortunate thing about hiding this kind of data allows for reoffending to happen frequently. We're not protecting people who are actual victims. And I think the concern here is the need to protect perpetrators and abusers and sexual predators over prioritizing the safety and well-being of the rest of society. So yes, allowing for schools to access that is one thing, because yes, at a school level, we need to protect our children. But clarifications on exactly how they can access that information is also very important. Having gone through a process myself, working at a school and needing to apply for clarification, it is a lengthy process, it is expensive, and it is not clear. So how are we keeping people safe from these predators in other spaces, so universities, in working spaces, even the people that you get into relationships or become friends with? This is information that protects us and keeps us safe. And I mean, there's 117 rape cases reported every single day, and that's 5% of the cases. So how are we protecting our women, our queer community, and the country as a whole from these sexual predators if this information is not readily available? It just shows us, again, the prioritization of protecting abusers.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. That is Cameron Kasambala, who is with Women for Change. And of course, that undertaking is taking place this week, the shutdown, the G20 Women's Shutdown this Friday. We're going to